Welcome to my channel. My name is Ria, and in this video we are going to talk about the new moon that is happening on 23rd or 24th of November 2022. So let's get started. Now for this video I'm going to focus on Western astrology, and then towards the end of the video I will talk about what this moon means in Vedic astrology. Right, so let's get started. Now a new moon essentially is a point in the lunar month that brings in new energy, right? New energy comes in on a new moon that we work on for the next 28 days or so. So essentially it's a new beginning, right? New energy coming in that we work on for the next lunar month. Now this new moon is in the sign of Sagittarius. You can see this right here. It's at 1 degree of Sagittarius, which means Sagittarian themes will be highlighted with this new moon. Now Sagittarius is a lot of things, right? Sagittarius is knowledge and wisdom and philosophy and going on adventures and travel and connecting with different cultures, right? But most importantly, Sagittarius is about finding meaning and keeping the hope alive. And I think on this new moon, that becomes extremely important for us as a collective, keeping the hope alive and trying to find meaning in whatever it is that gives us meaning, and that's different for everybody. Right now, that's the basic gist of this new moon. It is making one important aspect. Now, aspects color the energy of the new moon. It is in a trine with Jupiter, right? This right here is Jupiter, and you can see it's in a trine. So a trine in astrology is a positive aspect. It represents an ease, a flow to things, right? And Jupiter is the planet that rules the sign of Sagittarius, where we have this new moon. It is also the planet associated with positive gifts, right? It is also the planet associated with magnifying something. And to me, what this means is that this new moon energy is magnified, right? So we really have to focus on keeping that hope alive, and we really have to focus on looking at the glass half full, right? Looking at the brighter side of life. And I say this because the astrology for the past year and a half has not been the easiest, right? Especially the month of October. And that's because we've been through astrology that has been very intense in the recent past, and I'd just like to give you a little bit of context before moving on. So recently we had Mars here, the planet of action, our energy and drive, go retrograde, right, on 30th of October. So quite recently, and Mars will be retrograde till January. And Mars retrograde is in the sign of Gemini. Now, on a global level, on a collective level, what this means is that Mars is going to review and bring up themes associated with the facts that are out there, with the information that's out there, right? It's going to bring up themes of media, especially social media. That's collectively. Personally in our lives, it is going to ask us to focus on a certain area of our life and work on that. And this is probably something that we've been working on for a while. We've done it in the past before, but now it's coming up again for us to fix, for us to do better, right? But Mars retrograde is also associated with this feeling of becoming frustrated. It's this feeling of why are things not moving, right? It's this feeling of uncertainty, especially with this Mars retrograde, because it is aspecting Neptune in a stressful manner. So what we need to watch out for, or what we have been witnessing with Mars retrograde collectively, is this information and facts coming to the surface and a lot of action on the media front, on the social media front. But what to watch out for personally is this feeling of feeling frustrated, feeling like giving up, feeling like letting go. And that's why I said the key with this Sagittarius new moon is keeping the hope alive, right? Because that energy of wanting to give up, wanting to, just be frustrated is very high because Mars is retrograde. Now, in the month of October, right, not too long ago, Saturn and Uranus made their 90-degree angle for the final time. It wasn't exact, but it was the final time. And I'll just put this on the chart. Saturn here and Uranus here made a 90-degree angle. And this is something that we've been going through for the past 2 years almost, right? And what is this? This is this energy of let's step into the future. But hey, we cannot do that right now, right? This energy of wanting to break free, wanting to do new things, but feeling like now is not the time, feeling like there are restrictions. So this energy has been, intense. It's been intense. It's been on and off since 2021, Feb 2021, June 2021, December 2021, and then again this year, October. This intensity of feeling restricted, of feeling the pull of the future, but being held back by the past was very high. And if you look, although the intensity is less, this aspect is still there. So in our personal lives, we've been feeling this pull towards the future, but something holding us back, or this pull towards the future and something restricting us, limiting us, controlling us. And that's because Saturn here is the planet of restrictions. It's the planet of limitations, right? And Uranus here is the planet of wanting to break free. So we've been dealing with this push and pull energy. That being said, I do want to say the pull of the future is becoming stronger and stronger over the course of the past few months. So that's something I wanted to mention. And collectively and globally, this aspect can bring up few themes. First, it can bring up Aquarian themes. Saturn is in Aquarius right now. Aquarian themes of science, technology, innovation, right, of equality and rebellion. These are the Aquarian themes that can be highlighted with Saturn in Aquarius. And with Uranus in Taurus, Taurian themes will be highlighted, right? Taurus is a financial sign, so finances. Taurus is about the economy. It's about the food resources that are out there. It's about the raw materials we use. So all these themes are also highlighted, and more so since January of this year. And that's because since January of this year, the North Node, Rahu, entered the sign of Taurus. So these are the broad themes that we've been dealing with on a collective level because of this square, right? So that's something I wanted to mention. And that's why I said the most important thing with this new moon in Sagittarius is embedding, planting that energy of keeping the hope alive, of, keep going. That's the most important thing. We also have Venus and Mercury conjunct on this new moon, right? And they are, let me clean up the chart before I move on. They are in a trine with Chiron, right? Positive aspect. And Chiron is the planet of our wounds. But it's not just wounds, it's also the planet of healing, right? And what this means is that there's an element of healing. There is, but it doesn't feel like it, right? It doesn't feel like it because that's Chiron. Chiron is this energy that says you have to heal from within. After you go through experiences, after you accumulate the wisdom and the knowledge about a certain painful subject, that's when the healing takes place, right? That's when you're able to dispense that wisdom to somebody else and help somebody else in need. So there is a healing element as well. So that's something that I wanted to mention. So to sum it up, I would say that this new moon in Sag is asking us to keep the hope alive, is asking us to look at the brighter side of life, is asking us to look at the glass half full rather than half empty, because that's the typical Sagittarian approach to things, right? No matter what goes on, one has to be positive, right? A Sag, most likely, I'm not saying if you're a Sag, you're like this, we all have different energies in our chart, right? But Sagittarian energy is all about, if something goes wrong, looking for the right thing in that situation, and that's what we must do. And the reason we must do it because the astrology of October into November was quite intense. Mars is retrograde, and I explained that. Saturn Uranus square has been on, and I explained that. And what I didn't explain is the fact that we are coming out of eclipse season, right? 25th October was an eclipse, 8th November was an eclipse, karmic times, right? And these eclipses were on the Taurus Scorpio axis, and the full moon lunar eclipse on November 8th was conjunct Uranus, sudden events, unexpected events. So it hasn't been simple, it hasn't been straightforward in that sense for the past few weeks, and that's why keeping the hope alive is important. Now let's move on to Vedic astrology, right? Now in Vedic astrology, the energies are a little bit behind. And what I mean by that is that when this new moon is happening at 1 degree of Sagittarius in Western astrology, it is happening in the sign of Scorpio in Vedic astrology. But more importantly, it is happening in the lunar mansion, the nakshatra of Anuradha, right? Lunar mansions or nakshatras are smaller divisions of a sign, right? They have their own meaning, they have their own ruler, they have their own interpretation, much like the sun signs. So Anuradha is this nakshatra that is ruled by Saturn, right? And that gives away a lot. Saturn is the planet of restrictions. It's the planet of limitations. It's the planet of hard work. It's the planet of persistence, right? So we have to keep that going. We have to keep that hard work, that persistence going, despite the restrictions and limitations. And even in Western astrology, we do have Mars here trining Saturn, right? Although there are these restrictions, although we must keep the hope alive, there is energy supporting structured action, right? To work on something that we've been working on before, Mars retrograde. Now coming back to Vedic astrology, right? So that energy of persistence, that energy of working hard despite the restrictions and limitations is there with the nakshatra of Anuradha. Anuradha nakshatra also sends the message of keeping the hope alive, right? Because it's Saturn ruled. With Anuradha, we can face restrictions, we can face limitations, and the goal is to keep the hope that one day we will overcome that restriction, we will overcome that limitation. So that's a very powerful message in Vedic as well, keeping the hope alive. Anuradha nakshatra is also associated with the mystical side of life. It's associated with the Kundalini energy. So those themes are highlighted as well. And the symbol for Anuradha nakshatra is a lotus, right? It's the lotus flower, one of the symbols. And this is relevant because a lotus is known to grow in muddy waters, right? Despite growing in a muddy environment, it's one of the most beautiful flowers. So that's the message that we need to take away from this nakshatra, that no matter what the surroundings, right, no matter what goes on, we still have that power, we still have that drive to turn our lives into something beautiful, right? A lotus flower prospers in the harshest of environment. So that's what we need to keep in mind, that we must prosper no matter what the environment. We must keep the hope alive no matter what the environment, right? And Anuradha is also the nakshatra of devotion, right? Those who are familiar with Vedic astrology will understand that this is the nakshatra of complete and utter devotion. What this also denotes is that hope, right, of waiting, of persisting, that hope one day it will manifest. So that's Anuradha as well. And one thing to do with Anuradha is keep the mind stable. And I would say even in Western astrology, since this is happening in the sign of Sagittarius, that is optimistic, that is hopeful, right? But every sign has a positive and negative, and the negative of Sag is exaggeration, right? It's exaggerating something because Jupiter rules it. So it's about keeping the mind in check. It's about settling the mind and working on whatever we're working on without giving up, without getting frustrated, with the limitations and restrictions for the future, and keeping that hope alive. So that's this new moon in a nutshell, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and now I will see you next time. Have a great day. Bye.